The Second Galactic War has entered its twilight. Through the heroics of the greatest champions of the Jedi Order, the Sith Emperor has been defeated. The Empire is on its heels, but a wounded lion is still dangerous. The war must continue until a side emerges victorious, and the Jedi will call upon the legendary Hero of Tython once more. In this video, that saga will continue in the Battle of Ilum, the Dread War, the rise of the Hutt Cartel in Makeb, and the Desolation of Ziost. These are the first major arcs in the expansions for the Star Wars The Old Republic video game, which continue the conflict between the Republic and fractured Sith Empire. All narratives will be portrayed from the light side Jedi Master perspective, with the lone exception of the Hutt Cartel on Makeb's storyline. For that expansion, the light and dark side stories both have substantially different plots that complement one another. As I am trying to cover everything in chronological order, also in this video will be a recap of the novel Annihilation, which covers more adventures of the SIS agent Theron Shan. Let's dive in. After the unprecedented defeat of the Sith Emperor, the empire he leaves behind soon begins to splinter. Uncertainty plagues the Dark Council and remaining Sith Lords, but one prominent military commander decides to try and fill the power vacuum. They commandeer a battle station and form their own army, vowing to rebuild the Empire. The champion of the Jedi Order, the fabled Jedi Master who struck down the Sith Emperor, receives an urgent message from Supreme Commander Rands of the Republic. A crisis has arisen on the ice world of Ilum, a key source of lightsaber crystals. The planet has been invaded by the Empire, seemingly a last-ditch offensive in an effort to turn the war around. It seems they have discovered how to apply the crystals to cloaking technology, which in turn could be used to construct a devastating shadow armada. Darth Arho is leading the attack, and the Master is sent immediately to Ilum to help with its defense. Upon arriving, they learn the Jedi Temple on Ilum has been overrun by Darth Arho, with Rands on the run. They make it to a fallback base, where Rands looks to strike directly at the Imperial Deep Miners. Their operations are threatening to destabilize Ilum and literally rip it apart. The Master purges several mines and pinpoints the location of the main Imperial base. Intel believes Arho is not there, instead delegating the battle to his ruthless apprentice, Lord Loyat. The Master attacks the command center and confronts Loyat, hoping her predicament will draw Arho into combat. Loyat sends a distress signal to her master, but receives no response. The Jedi Master attacks, and Loyat is defeated and taken into Republic custody. However, it turns out that at the same time, Arho raided the Republic Command Center and managed to capture Supreme Commander Rands. Returning to the base, the Master and surviving commanders receive a holo transmission from a Sith Lord. It is the notorious Darth Malgus, conqueror of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. Surprisingly, he reveals that he wishes to help them defeat Arho, and that Rands was operating partially off Malgus' own intel. Malgus claims he accepts the war to be lost, and acknowledges the Sith are defeated. For Arho is a member of the Dark Council, but his aggressive approach to the war irks Malgus. He seeks to take Arho's spot in the Council so the Empire has a chance of surviving. Not fully trusting Malgus, but left with no other option, the Master moves to free Rands from a POW camp. They interrupt a torture session, and a holo of Arho sends his minions of pain against the Master. All are killed, no match for the Master's skill and prowess in battle. Rands and the other prisoners are freed, and the Master drives off the Imperial reinforcements sent by Arho. The Sith commander, becoming desperate, starts to land his entire fleet on Ilum in preparation for a massive assault. Knowing there is a finite number of possible landing areas big enough for Arho's ships, the Master moves out and destroys the landing strips. The Sith and Arho fall back inside the Jedi Temple and hole up for a siege. However, the Master sneaks into the temple through some underground tunnels as the Republic launches a diversionary attack on the surface. Breaking inside, they find a defiant Arho, who claims the Empire will never surrender. He consumes the essence and power of one of his followers and attacks. The Master kills Arho, and Ilum is liberated despite heavy Republic casualties. A transmission of Darth Malgus addressing the Sith Empire is then played to the Republic commanders. He scorns the political infighting of the ineffective Dark Council and the disappearance of the Emperor, and he declares himself leader of a new empire. Malgus formally dissolves the Dark Council, warning any who dare oppose him will invoke the wrath of his matchless Shadow Armada. The Master resolves to take down Malgus once and for all. They meet with the most powerful leaders of the Republic, including General Garza and Master Satele Shan. Malgus then attacks Ilum, needing the planet's crystals to complete his fleet's cloaking devices. The Master and the daring pilot Cole Kantaris embark on a mission to attack Malgus' space station as battle begins to rage on Ilum once more. The Knight battles through the station's defenses, encountering a boss mystic and Darth Saravan. Saravan gloats that an assassin has been sent to the Republic War Council, and that some of the boss mystics have joined Malgus' side. The Master manages to kill Saravan in combat, and the mystics are persuaded to instead swap sides to the Republic. They race back to the command center to find it in flames, and Supreme Commander Rand's injured. Using Saravan's captured starfighter, they use its nav computer to find Malgus' secret base with the support of the Republic fleet. They battle its Sith defenders and war droids in the midst of a massive factory of unprecedented technology. If applied to Malgus' fleets, he would become unrivaled in the field of battle. For Malgus, in his relatively progressive worldviews as a Sith, has allied with many alien races to form the Schism Collective. Using their intellect, he has applied the ancient technology of the Foundry to the space station. The Master makes it to the power core and encounters HK-47, the commander of the Foundry and deemed enforcer of Malgus. HK-47 is destroyed, and the head scientist of Malgus, Arcus Woad, is detained. The Schism Collective stands down, and the Master moves on to confront Malgus in his throne room. As the station defenses begin to fail, Malgus arms the systems to self-destruct, hoping the blast will consume the Republic fleet. He leaps down and attacks the Master. The two titans of the Force clash and are nearly evenly matched, but the Master is too strong and defeats the false Emperor. The rebellion of Malgus is quashed, and the Republic breathes a sigh of relief. In the midst of a war engulfing the galaxy, Master Satele Shan meditates on the Jedi mantra in a dark, damp cave. With the help of Master Zo Nagani, she gives birth to a son. Due to her role as a hero and symbol of hope for the Jedi and Republic in the war against the Sith, Satele was forced to hide her pregnancy for months. She had been sequestered away from prying eyes with the help of Master Zo, but all the while the Sith Empire continued to score victories against her friends. Now, she feels a great sense of duty, to return to the fight from which she had been absent for so long. Though Satele loves her son dearly, she now desires to protect him from the greater evils of the galaxy. And in order to do that, she decides she must give him over to Master Zo and the Jedi Order. With a heavy heart, she names him Theron and falls asleep. Theron Shan navigates the seedy, crowded streets of Nar Shaddaa. He senses someone following him, but it is simply instinct, not through any innate powers of his own. For Theron, despite being raised by Master Zo, is not Force-sensitive. Consequently, he never followed his mother's footsteps into the Jedi Order, instead working for the Republic's Strategic Information Service for more than a decade. His mind is sharp, and without tipping off his follower, Theron scans the crowd. He then receives an unexpected call from his director, who demands to know why he is on Nar Shaddaa. Theron hopes the call will bait the assassin in, but as it ends, the assailant suddenly appears closer than he had expected. The attacker works for the Hutt Morbo, and has spotted Theron scoping the Hutt's palace out for the past several days. Theron then fights his way free, shooting the attacker with a mind-numbing drug so he can question him. To his surprise, the attacker also works for the Republic SIS, and is part of an operation monitoring Morbo. Theron is inadvertently interfering with an active mission, but complicating things is the matter of Tefeth, a Twi'lek smuggler for the Old Tyon Brotherhood he has taken under his wing, but is now being held captive by Morbo. Theron then races towards one of Morbo's casinos, planning to bribe its manager to gain an audience with the Hutt. Upon arriving, he discovers Morbo is planning to auction off captured Republic soldiers into slavery. Theron worries that sabotaging the auction may have been the objective of the other SIS mission, and decides to free the soldiers himself. He leaves the casino and does some recon work. Theron discovers where the soldiers are being held, and sedates the guards. He frees them, and then moves on to Morbo's office. The Hutt is asked to call off the hit on Tethys, and Theron is able to talk Morbo down. However, it is revealed a team has already been sent against Tethys and her squad at the spaceport. It is revealed that Tethys' crew has been marked for death because they tried to cut Morbo out of one of their spice deals. Theron dispatches 2 of the shooters, pinning Tethys down, and watches from the shadows as she escapes, unaware of his help. Elsewhere, the director of the SIS, Marcus Trant, learns of the mission's failure and Theron's involvement. As he prepares to meet with Jace Malcolm, the supreme commander of the Republic military, he decides to take the fall for the outcome. Jace knows Trant is hiding something, but accepts the apology. He tells the SIS director to begin freeing up resources for a big project, which piques Trant's interest. For the Republic finally has the advantage in the war, following the death of the Emperor and presumed fall of Darth Malgus. However, the Sith Lord Darth Mechus, a brilliant scientist, had devised several weapons with the potential to turn the tide of the war. It was only through the actions of Theron and Master Zoe that Mechus was killed. Master Zoe lost his life saving Tethys in the mission, the reason Theron looks to protect the Twi'lek now. However, one creation of Mechus survived, the ship Ascendant Spear. It has tremendous firepower and the fastest hyperdrive in the galaxy, and it is commanded by Darth Carrot, a former member of the Jedi Order and now the apprentice of Darth Malgus. The Ascendant Spear is unrivaled in combat, and Jace now looks to put together a task force to destroy it. He proposes a joint mission between the military, Jedi, and SIS, and tells Trant to begin gathering his best agents. Meanwhile, on Droman Kos, Darth Marr nominates Darth Carrot to the Sphere of Technology on the Dark Council. The nomination is controversial among the other council members, as Carrot is affiliated with Malgus and his treachery of the Empire, and is also a non-human alien species. Marr hopes the ascension of Carrot will restore unity among the Sith, and slowly remove the bigotry of the old traditions of prejudice in the Empire. The other council members support the promotion of Darth Gravis instead, a capable commander but one who has as many enemies as allies. Theron returns to Coruscant, landing to a security escort. He knows it is a disciplinary measure for his interference on Nar Shaddaa, and is taken directly to Director Trant. To his surprise, Theron is transferred to the analytics department, out of the field and into a desk job. He will still work on Operation Endgame, however, and Trant assures him he will have a role to play. Elsewhere, Darth Carrot plugs herself into the Ascendant Spear's command pod, which allows her access to all the ship's systems, a tremendous physical and mental ordeal. She plans to drop out of hyperspace shortly outside SWTOR, and will draw on the strength of her apprentices to fuel her efforts in battle. The Spear arrives to a battle already unfolding between Darth Gravis and the Republic. It appears to be a struggle of attrition, with Gravis remaining out of range of the Republic batteries, but only managing to inflict minimal damage on the Republic. Carrot's arrival frustrates Gravis, as he did not request her aid and wants to claim the glory of victory for himself. The Republic ships immediately wheel around to face Carrot, but with her capabilities combined with the technology of the Spear, they suffer heavy casualties almost immediately. Carrot patches into a furious Gravis, threatening to take his place on the Council. Gravis then turns on Carrot and the Ascendant Spear, and the Republic opens fire on Gravis' ships as they maneuver. Carrot takes advantage of the confusion, flying straight into the middle of the fray. She obliterates the last Republic cruisers as Gravis opens fire on her in turn. However, since the other Sith attacked first, Carrot now has the justification to destroy him in self-defense. Deftly outmaneuvering Gravis' flagship, she mercilessly fires the killing blow, ending her rival's life. Meanwhile, Theron struggles to acclimate with life and analytics, itching to be back out in the field. One evening, he gets a call from Tethys, who asks for him to leave her alone. During the call, however, she offhandedly mentions the world of Ziost, and Theron suddenly has a new idea for Operation Endgame. Elsewhere, Darth Marr summons the Dark Council in the wake of Gravis' death. He has gained access to communications between Carrot and Gravis that reveal the truth of his death, disturbed by the ambition and ruthlessness shown by Carrot. To his surprise, the Council is impressed with Carrot's actions and now supports her nomination. Marr then realizes they simply have begun to scheme against Carrot and the Spear, and worries that the culture of infighting will continue to plague and weaken the Sith. On Coruscant, Director Trant walks towards Jace Malcolm's office in the Senate building. He plans to discuss an outline for Operation Endgame, spearheaded by the work of Theron Shan. Among the components of the plan is the aid of the Jedi Master Nostoral, who is the former master of Darth Carid. Jace then asks that Theron Shan be included in the mission, citing his heroics in his last operation with Master Zoe. To Malcolm's surprise, he then learns that Theron is the son of Satele Shan, but the identity of his father is unknown. As the operation unfolds, on Joman Kos, business continues relatively normally. Despite the death of the Emperor, his efficient bureaucratic network remains. However, the Empire itself lacks a clear sense of direction, especially since Imperial intelligence collapsed after the fall of the Emperor. Presently, the Minister of Logistics advises Darth Marr to abandon the Sith campaign in the Boronal system, which is looking to secede from the Empire. Marr considers the data and potential losses from sustaining the campaign, but decides to continue on in the hopes that crushing Boronal will send a message to the rest of the Empire. The Minister is ordered to contact Darth Carid to request for aid in the system. Theron is summoned to a meeting with Trant, Jace Malcolm, and Master Nostoral. It is revealed that Carid, who before was Kana Terid, was sent by Nostoral to study under Darth Malgus as an undercover agent. However, the temptation of the dark side and control over the Ascendant Spear was too much, and she defected to the Sith as a double agent. They turned to the key of Operation Endgame next. The plan is for Theron to infiltrate the Spear undercover the next time it docks at a spaceport. However, to discover where it's heading next, they will need a black cipher to decode the Spear's messages. To acquire one, they must break into the Imperial Minister of Logistics' office on Ziost. They must also make sure the Empire doesn't learn the cipher is stolen, because otherwise they could simply change the transmission codes. To find a way into Ziost, Theron hopes they can recruit the help of Tethys, and they plan to set out in 2 days. The night before, Jace asks to meet with Theron in private, appearing uneasy. To Theron's shock, Jace reveals he may be actually Theron's father, having had a past relationship with Satele Shan before she had broken things off. Theron brushes off the revelation, stating he feels no connection to Jace or Satele. He agrees to talk things over more with Jace after the mission, and then leaves to call Tethys. After bargaining for a price, she agrees to set him up with a separatist contact of hers so they can acquire weapons and blueprints of the Minister's office. The day of the mission arrives, and Theron meets up with Nostoral to fly to Ziost. The Jedi confides that the Emperor may not be dead, and has vowed to find the truth behind the nature of his fall and to study the Sith. They land on Ziost, the Jedi posing as a wealthy noble and Theron as his bodyguard. A newscast is shown, displaying a victory by Darth Carid in the Boronal system. The Empire accuses the Republic of orbitally bombarding the planet, but Theron knows this to be a lie and actually the actions of Carid herself. They meet Tethys' contact and settle in for several days to plan their next actions. Theron needs to effectively stage a failed assassination attempt on the Minister of Logistics and a fake destruction of the cipher after he switches out its core. He plans to trip the city's power and send the facility into lockdown by faking a Republic invasion. The operation begins, with Nostoral able to kill the power grid and Theron breaking into the Minister's office. Imperial forces begin to surround the building as Nostoral joins Theron inside. They are able to acquire the cipher core and escape as Theron triggers an explosion to cover their tracks. Though the Sith are surprised by the attack, Theron's ruse is successful and they believe the cipher to be destroyed. Darth Marr, however, believes the enemies of the Empire have now become too emboldened and decides they must return to the offensive. Theron and Nostoral return to Coruscant, where the cipher will be used to track the Spear's movements. Once they find its location, Theron will infiltrate it and unleash a virus to disrupt the hyperdrive and defenses of the ship. He then learns that Satele Shan now wishes to speak with him. Meeting with his mother, she reveals that she ended things with Jace out of fear he would fall to the dark side. Frustrated with her Jedi teachings, Theron leaves Satele as she remembers when Jace had a brief spell of fury on Alderaan, hunting down Sith soldiers in a quest of vengeance. Sensing the hate and darkness in him, she had decided to end their affair to protect their child. Later, Nostoral and Theron set out for Jagani Port on Desevro. They search for Tethys, seeking her help in infiltrating an Imperial space station there. Director Trant then patches in with news that the Spear plans to dock at Reaver Station in the Moranis system. Tethys' contact is able to get Theron an Imperial shuttle in disguise, in exchange for having Tethys accompany them to ensure the Brotherhood is paid. Theron arrives at the station, and there learns the Sith Empire attacked Ruan, inflicting thousands of casualties on the Republic world. He immediately contacts Trant and Jace Malcolm, learning they knew about the attack but had made the hard call to let it unfold. They could not afford to risk the Empire knowing their transmissions were compromised, and Jace is focused on defeating the Ascendant Spear at all costs. The next attack will fall on Duro, and Theron knows nothing will be done there either unless the spear is present. He decides to find a way to get the spear to Duro so Trant and Malcolm will be forced to send a Republic fleet. Tethys is asked to fly to Coruscant to enlist the aid of Satele, while Theron and Nostaral remain on the station. Theron must still sabotage the spear systems, and Nostaral will also go on board to convince Carad to go to Duro. The Jedi Master is able to infiltrate the massive ship, and is soon surrounded. He fights off several Imperial troops, and then Darth Carad and her 2 apprentices appear. Security outside the ship tightens, and Theron slices into the systems and fakes a Republic attack. Inside the spear, Nostaral duels Carad and her apprentices, who are fierce fighters but untested in true lightsaber combat. Nostaral outclasses all of them. He begins to fatigue, and Carad orders her soldiers to stun him and capture him alive. In the chaos of the station, Theron is also able to infiltrate the spear. He makes his way to the engine room, and begins to try and find a way into the main system. Meanwhile, Tethys battles Gorvich, a former member of her crew, managing to reclaim Theron and Nostaral's shuttle and fly away to Coruscant. There, she manages to get in contact with Satele, and brings her up to date on the recent events. As the spear reaches space, Theron navigates the complicated network of the ship, working through its safeguards and redundancies. Elsewhere, Carad questions Nostaral, confused as to the reasons behind the staged attack on Reaver Station. She tortures him mercilessly, but Nostaral refuses to confess. Theron is able to tap into the spear's communications network, and waits for the signal that they are bound for Duro. He discovers footage of a captured Nostaral, who by now has broken after several hours of torture. The Jedi is freed, and regains his composure at the last moment. He speaks with Carad, claiming the Republic is planning an attack on Duro. Playing to Carad's pride, Nostaral is able to manipulate her into flying straight to the planet, even as she learns the cipher code was cracked. In the middle of the night, Jace Malcolm is awakened by Tethys and Satele, who tell him he must send a fleet to Duro. It is an incredibly risky plan, one that completely depends on Theron succeeding in his mission. After some deliberation, Jace agrees to send the fleet, with Satele and Tethys to accompany him on his flagship. Meanwhile, Darth Carad re-enters her command pod, a rush going through her as she becomes one with the spear again. Battle breaks out over Duro, and Jace arrives with a massive Republic fleet. The Imperials are taken by surprise and are outgunned, with one ship flying a suicide mission into the cities below. Then, Darth Carad and the Ascendant Spear arrive. Jace wheels his flagship around, ordering the fleet to engage the spear. The guns aim towards them, but inexplicably miss, for Theron has successfully uploaded his virus, messing with Carad's targeting systems. Carad fires and misses again, then takes a direct hit from Republic fire. She rolls into evasive maneuvers to recalibrate, but then the external sensors go out. Carad then senses an intruder's presence on her ship, and a Black Fury reinvigorates her. Her apprentice and his 2 lackeys maintain their concentration, continuing to strengthen her. She cuts off Theron's virus, and her systems come back online. Jace is forced to pull back, and he calls for reinforcements as he hopes Theron and Nostaral are able to succeed in their mission. Theron, meanwhile, frantically tries to find another way in to sabotage Carad. He only has so much time before security finds him, and then remotely releases Nostaral's bindings. The Jedi Master, who by now has recovered, springs to his feet and grabs his lightsaber. Carad's other apprentice, who had been guarding him, flees. Nostaral pursues her, and after a brief duel, ends her life. He moves on towards the control room and Carad herself, and along the way reunites with Theron. They break into a meditation room, encountering Carad's last apprentice and 2 other Sith warriors. Nostaral stays behind to hold them off, and Theron runs off to find a way to save the Republic fleet. Carad loses the powers of her helpers, and becomes aware of the duel raging outside her crystal sphere. The casualties for the Republic slowly begin to pile up, and the spear now moves towards Jace's flagship Aegis. The Great Master Nostural battles the two Sith warriors, and after a lengthy exchange manages to break away from them and fight Carad's lesser skilled apprentice. He easily kills him, and returns to the two warriors. Theron then manages to trigger a false alarm of the spear, flooding it with false data. The crystal sphere of Carad opens, severing her connection with the ship. Enraged, she sees Theron and stalks towards him. On the Aegis, Jace and Satele brace themselves for the killing blow, only to find it never comes. With hope flooding into him, Jace then orders for all ships to open fire on the spear. Imperial Moff Lorman, with no knowledge of Carad's status, presumes her to be dead and gives the order to abandon ship. The Ascendant Spear is pummeled by the Republic, throwing Carad briefly off balance as she tries to kill Theron. He only has a defective blaster, but as the ship rocks, she races back to the crystal pod to try and save the battle. Theron squeezes the trigger on the blaster, causing it to overload. It begins to heat up, and at the last moment he throws it at Carad right as the walls of her pod close. The blaster lands inside and explodes, gruesomely killing the Sith Lord. The Sith warriors battling Nostural flee, and he grabs Theron as they move to escape. They barely manage to fly out in Carad's personal escape pod as the Ascendant Spear explodes, making it back to Jace and Satele. Theron, Nostural, and Tefith are all awarded the Cross of Glory following the stunning victory of the Republic. Jace is denied a family reunion, but then receives a private holo from Theron offering to meet for drinks. As for Theron himself, he pays Tefith 10,000 credits for her help, and offers her a job at the SIS. She declines, and asks him once more to stop watching over her. Theron agrees, but after she leaves vows to continue protecting her, citing it is what family does for each other. In the midst of the cataclysmic war, by ill fortune several beings of ancient, unfathomable power were freed and unleashed on the galaxy. They are known as the Dreadmasters, powerful Sith who studied the Phobos devices on Droman Kos. The Dreadmasters were the only Sith able to harness the power of the arcane artifacts, which drove everyone else mad with fear. 6 they numbered, and such was their power and influence that they were able to live for centuries, serving the Sith Emperor as advisors, generals, and prophets. In the Great Galactic War that preceded the Treaty of Coruscant, they worked together to employ a devastating form of battle meditation that made their fleets unrivaled in combat. To stay safe, they were kept on a constantly mobile dreadnought. However, the Jedi Knight Jarrett Caden was able to learn of their location, and with a daring strike team infiltrated the dreadnought and captured all 6 Dreadmasters. They were imprisoned on Bel Savis. However, in 3641 BBY, the Dreadmasters were inadvertently freed by the Esh-Ka, who in turn tried to draw upon their power. Eventually, an Imperial strike team on the planet liberated the Dreadmasters and brought them back to the Empire. As the war rages on, after some time Chief Branos of the Republic SIS contacts the Jedi Master. They are needed for another job in the Tyon hegemony, an independent system. The worlds there have been beset with the infamous Rakghoul Plague, which now threatens to spread to the rest of the galaxy. The Master rushes to meet with Ranos, who informs them the entire Tyon system has been placed under quarantine. The ruling family has secluded themselves from their people, and 4 entire planets have already become utterly consumed by the plague. The Master lands on the world of Kaon, hoping to end the plague while the Republic seeks to build goodwill towards an alliance with the hegemony. They land on a dark cityscape in ruins and begin to look for survivors. Their team is immediately attacked by an infected swarm, which kills several soldiers. Perhaps most disturbingly, the virus seems to have given them the ability to use technology and weapons. A local military officer confides the plague has even begun to spread to local wildlife, making it imperative they discover the source as soon as possible. They manage to find the very pilot whose ship first brought the Rakghouls to Tyon. She tells the Master she was hired by Dr. Lorik, a member of one of the families that opposed the Tyon rulers. The Master learns Lorik may have a base on Ord Mantell, and reports back to Ranos. Lorik seems to be acting alone, and the Master is sent to stop his experiments. On Ord Mantell, they learn Lorik seeks vengeance against the Tyon ruling family for exiling him. He has perfected the virus, which has the ability to evolve with each new host and continue to grow stronger. The Master battles the deranged Lorik, taking him down and destroying his research. The Tyon hegemony allies with the Republic, further destabilizing the Empire's war efforts. However, the Dreadmasters remain at large in the galaxy, and are no longer bound to serving the Empire. They deem the new leaders of the Sith Empire unworthy, and begin to make plans to establish their own dominion. With their considerable powers, the Dreadmasters rapidly gain a loyal force of Imperial troops to serve them. Their first move is to attack the Hutt Cartel, which rapidly loses systems to the ancient Sith powers. In response, Supreme Mogul Karaga severs ties with the Empire and begins to expand the cartel's borders elsewhere. The aggressive expansion quickly attracts the Republican Empire to bring battle to Karaga, and in the climax of the short conflict, the Hutt Mogul is killed. The Dreadmasters then attack the planet of Denova, where valuable deposits of baridium have been found. They take control of the mind of a mercenary leader named Kefis, who was hired by the Republic to battle the Imperial forces also looking to seize Denova. Fear begins to spread across the planet, with a three-way battle breaking out between the Republic, Empire, and Dreadmasters. Kefis is brought down, but then the Dreadmasters reveal their presence to the galaxy and resurrect their chosen vessel. Having been driven back from Denova, they move on to the ancient world of Asation, home of the Grease civilization and the Grand Hypergate, an arcane device that permits instant teleportation from one location to another. The still alive and monstrous Kefes conquered the Hypergate, and the Gree enlisted Imperial and Republic help to free their world. Kefes was killed despite unleashing Lotek, the terror from beyond and an extra-dimensional monster. However, Lotek was driven away, and Kefes was killed once and for all. The Dreadmasters' next campaign takes their formidable Dread host to Sector X. They rally and strike at Belsavis, looking to wrest the planet from Republic control once more. Their army runs rampant over Sector X, where notorious Sith prisoners are being held. However, the legendary Hero of Tython races to help in the battle for the sector, where the formidable Dread Guards are wreaking havoc on Republic forces. The Sith Empire, however, is still not allied with the Dreadmasters, and thus the battle is divided between three armies. The Master discovers the Dreadmasters seem to be interested in the wreck of an Imperial ship called the Fatality. It had appeared suddenly over Belsavis years ago when the Dreadmasters were first captured, but was quickly shot down. The Master searches for the cargo manifest of the Fatality in its wreckage, and encounters legions of frozen HK assassin droids. In the hands of the Dreadmasters or Empire, they would be a formidable military asset. The Republic decides to try and get the droids to work for them. To repair the damaged goods, the Master must find schematics and repair parts in Zerka lab databases. The Master finds a sufficient database and is able to download HK schematics. However, back on Belsavis, the Sith Lord self-dubbed as the Lord of Agony has retaken the Fatality. The fearsome Sith is killed, allowing a droid engineer to enter the ship and repair the scuttled HK assassins. The droids are reactivated, and to the relief of the Master, one called HK-51 agrees to serve them and assist their crew. The Dreadmasters are foiled once more, and have now suffered 3 military defeats in a row. The Dreadmaster Styrak then breaks away from the others, and gathers his loyal forces on the world of Darvanis. Imperial and Republic strike teams are sent against him, and Styrak puts up a fierce fight but is eventually killed. Sometime later, the Jedi Master is hailed by Supreme Chancellor Seresh. She tells them the Hutt Cartel, in a sudden act of aggression, has expanded its territories and conquered the planet of Makeb. They are summoned to a war council at Keylander Station. There, Jace Malcolm informs the Master the Hutts have imposed a blockade around the Makeb system, and it seems its citizens have pledged to join the Republic if liberated. The Master is tasked with landing on the surface and linking up with local resistance leaders, and Grandmaster Satil Shan worries that Makeb may be a staging point for an attack on the rest of the galaxy. They travel down and meet Shalem Avastar, the leader of the Makeb resistance. ever since the invasion, the planet has been rocked by earthquakes. The Master immediately joins the fight against the mercenaries and searches for a scientist researching the quakes. They lead a warpath against the mercenaries' camps and are eventually able to free the scientist. The Master learns the deep mining operations of the Hutts are threatening to destroy the planet's foundations and utterly annihilate the surface. They must rush to save Makeb, and the scientist reveals the Hutts may have a failsafe contingency in Talos City that can help. With the help of a security chief, the Jedi Master sneaks into the city and looks to break into the Hutt embassy. They manage to find archives pertaining to the failsafe, which is under the control of Toboro the Hutt. It turns out the failsafe is simply a secure ship Toboro will use to flee the planet before it self-destructs. Toboro is looking to mine as much Isotope 5 before that happens, a substance capable of warping electromagnetic and gravitational fields. The Master decides to find the Ark and use it to evacuate the population of Makeb. An assault is launched on the Ark construction site, and the Master is able to secure the enormous ship. It turns out the Ark still isn't completed, but the destruction of Makeb inches ever closer. The Hutts then relaunch a massive counterattack to retake the Ark. The Master summons all their allies on Makeb and goes on a solo mission to destroy key mercenary munitions depots. A battalion of war droids is destroyed, and the Master moves on to attack the main mercenary command base, called the Storm Carrier. The Master launches an assault on the Storm Carrier and destroys it, crippling the Hutt offensive. They rally the local population to hope again, but then learn from Toboro himself the Ark requires Isotope 5 as fuel. The outraged Hutt begins to attack civilian settlements, and the Master rushes off to defend them from Isotope 5 powered battle droids. Imperial forces also arrive, interested in Isotope 5 as well. They must now locate one Dr. Ogorob, a Hutt himself, to learn about the Ark and Isotope 5. The Master rescues Ogorob from imprisonment, who recognizes that Toboro has gone mad and now wishes to defect to the Republic. The Republic learns that the Ark's Isotope 5 fuel rods are in Toboro's fortress as the earthquakes begin to worsen. The Master helps destroy more mining platforms to buy them time, and the rest of the Hutts follow Ogorob's example and defect to the Republic's cause. Thus, an alliance is secured with the Hutts, and plans are made to attack Toboro's palace. The Master sneaks inside and confronts the Hutt. Toboro sends forth a massive droid called Glittering Fury, which the Master battles and defeats. Toboro accepts the inevitable and sets his palace to self-destruct. The Master recovers the fuel rods, and Toboro dies along with his supply of Isotope 5. The Ark is able to take to the skies with the rescued people of Makeb and the Hutts. As they fly away, they note the planet does not fall to ruin, going against their prognostications. The Hutts are ordered to fund a haven world for the people of Makeb in accordance with their agreement. The Master is then hailed from a member of the Jedi Council, who asks for their aid to finally take down the Dreadmasters. Shortly after the Battle of Ilum and defeat of the upstart Darth Malgus, the Sith Inquisitor is hailed by Darth Marr. Marr informs his fellow Dark Council member of a planet called Makeb, which may hold the key to the Empire's survival in the war. Marr and the Inquisitor meet on Makeb, acknowledging the Empire is losing the war, the infighting within the Dark Council weakening the Sith. The Inquisitor learns the Hutts have seized Makeb for its rare supply of Isotope 5, looking to take advantage of the Empire's current weakness. Marr asks the Inquisitor to find a way to steal the supply of Isotope 5 in secret without being discovered by the Hutts or Republic. The Inquisitor lands on the surface and makes contact with their orbital extraction team. They clear out a gravity hook, defeating its Hutt mercenary defenders. The Sith are able to deceive the Hutts into believing something has gone awry with their operations, and decide to track down a business executive to find where the Isotope 5 is being stored. The Inquisitor storms a meeting between the executive and several Hutts, and learns it is a matter of weeks before Makeb is destroyed. They kill the executive and all the Hutts present, and discover the mined Isotope 5 is being stored in Stronghold 1, the treasury of Makeb. The Inquisitor decides to stir up riots among the people of Makeb, by targeting the mercenary enforcers controlling them and releasing false propaganda claiming their government has already made a deal with the Hutts. The plan works, and the Hutts' forces are thrown into chaos. The Inquisitor meets with several civilian resistance leaders and goads them into open revolt. Riots and raids begin against the Hutts, and fighting erupts across Makeb. It will be a diversion for the Inquisitor to break into Stronghold 1. Several explosions are rigged to bring down the Stronghold defenses, and the Inquisitor breaks inside. They destroy the mercenary guards and battle one of the Hutt's formidable Isotope 5 droids. The Inquisitor fights their way to the inner vault, but only finds one sample of Isotope 5 remaining. They then discover that the remaining supply has already been used to construct an army of droids. The Hutt Sajin the Archon then contacts them, proclaiming himself first Archon of the new Hutt Empire. More droids attack the Inquisitor, and they narrowly manage to escape. They decide to lower the heat shields of the facility, flooding it with lava and destroying the droids. Darth Maul is displeased that the full supply of Isotope 5 was unable to be recovered, and demands results. The Inquisitor decides to try and prevent Makeb's destruction, with all operations remaining as covert as possible. To gain more data on how to stabilize Makeb's core, the Inquisitor travels deep underground to map out the remaining isotope deposits. They flee to the surface as another earthquake rattles the caverns, and their intel team comes to believe that Makeb can be saved. The Imperials decide to use laser machinery to reshape the isotope deposits to stabilize the core. However, the geological experts needed to operate the equipment are all under the close guard of Sajin. The Inquisitor frees the experts from a group of Black Ops mercenaries and takes them all to various mining platforms. The stabilization process will be dangerous and will likely transform Makeb into a toxic wasteland, but after the chaos, the Isotope 5 will be able to be mined. The Inquisitor defends their team from Sajin's forces as the planet begins to fall apart around them. However, Makeb is stabilized and saved, and the Republic and Hutt ships withdraw none the wiser. Several members of the team are then kidnapped by Sajin, and a furious Inquisitor launches a ruthless attack against the Hutt Archon. They obliterate the Hutt defenders and rescue the prisoners from Sajin's manor. The Inquisitor hunts the Archon down to prevent him from alerting the Cartel of Makeb's survival. Sajin enters a massive war mech and attacks the Inquisitor. The mech is destroyed, and the Inquisitor unleashes groundquakes across the surface of Makeb. Thousands who haven't evacuated to space yet are killed, and Sajin is also mercilessly cut down. But Makeb is secured, with the Sith having successfully claimed the planet under the noses of the Republic and Hutt Cartel. Later, the Republic in a broad transmission to the galaxy announces the death of the Sith Emperor and the defeat of the Sith Empire. Later, the Jedi Master flies to Coruscant and meets with Master Cedral Gend. He tells them of a facility called Arcanum, a cache of powerful dark side technology designed specifically for the Sith Emperor. The Master is told the formidable Dread Masters of the Sith have raided the Arcanum and stolen a device called the Seeds of Rage. The seeds have the ability to incite madness and violence in living beings, and have been hidden across the galaxy by the Dread Masters in highly populated areas. Recovering the seeds is a top priority of both the Republic and Empire. The Jedi have a spy in the service of Darth Asina, who currently has one of the thieves in captivity. The Master will operate off the intel of the spy to find the burial sites. They set off to find some of the seeds, hidden on Taris, Hoth, Corellia, and Tatooine. Though the seeds are recovered, the Dread Masters then attack the Arcanum again. The Master arrives to find the compound in flames, battling Dreadguard commandos and even a rock ghoul progenitor, which leaps away and escapes. The Arcanum is liberated, and it is revealed the Sith forces were led by Darth Tagris, who managed to steal a weapon called the Dark Staff. The Master recovers more seeds on Alderaan, Balmorra, and Voss. They manage to trace Tagris to an old Jedi temple on Ilum, and lead an attack force against the Sith there. The fighting is fierce, with the Master battling gruesome monsters of Sith alchemy until they finally find Tagris. He vows to claim the seed's power, and launches a ferocious attack against the Master. Tagris is killed by the formidable Hero of Tython, and at last all the Seeds of Rage are recovered. The Republic then destroys them, launching the seeds into a star. The Republic has already brought down Dreadmaster Styrak in battle, but the remaining 5 Dreadmasters based on Oricon still hold strong. A Jedi bombing raid there failed catastrophically, the team becoming afflicted with madness as soon as they entered orbit above Oricon. The Master lands on Oricon in its dark, twisted landscape to help evacuate stranded Republic troops. The booming voices of Dreadmasters Raptus and Brontes echo across the land, attempting to sow discord and mistrust in the Republic. The ground forces are slowly losing their sanity, beset with strange visions and voices in their heads. The Master moves across the surface, rescuing the crashed teams from the failed bombing raid. To ensure everyone can evacuate safely, the Master prepares for an assault on the Dreadmaster's fortress. Along the way, they destroy several terraforming devices, which weakens the hold of the Dreadmaster's powers over the Republic forces. The Master storms the Stronghold Watchtower and gains access to the computer controlling the main gate. The voices of the Dreadmasters dance throughout the haunted space. Once we were mortals, and we dreamed of mortal things. Now we are beyond man, woman, or Sith. Once we were 6 on Darvanis. The Republic slew our brother, and we became 5. Once we were conquerors, but now we have seen our true path. For this, we thank you. Before our brother tasted oblivion, we had prepared to spread terror across the galaxy. We would build an endless dominion under our leadership. Coruscant overgrown with our devices, homes and families slicked with blood, billions overcome with fear and hatred. That day will come, but it will not end there. We felt our brother's doom on Darvanis. We felt peace. When we have enslaved the galaxy, slaughter will follow. Birth, pain, fear, death, the cycle of existence. Oblivion will overtake all that is. At the end, we too will taste death's solace. The Dreadmasters proclaim Coruscant and the entire galaxy will soon experience fear of a profound magnitude. The Republic forces' conditions continue to worsen, and the Master knows ships of great evil will soon be on their way to the galaxy's most populous areas. They rush out and sabotage the Dreadmaster ships and kill their lieutenants, allowing time for a Republic counterattack. The Master attacks the fortress and battles the Dreadmaster defenses. Brontes falls before them in the courtyard, no match for the Master's legendary power. They fight their way to the inner palace amidst hellish visions inflicted upon them. The remaining 4 Dreadmasters rise from their thrones and battle the Master. However, all are defeated, and the Dread Council is destroyed. It turns out that Dreadmaster Calpheus managed to survive, however, and he staggers out in front of the recovered Republic troops. His power is gone, his mind lost. The Master decides to send him into the care of the Jedi to see if he can recover, and the Dread War concludes. The Master is then contacted by SIS agent Theron Shan, who asks them to meet with Colonel Rian Dorak. They are recruited to raid the Sith Academy on Korriban and gain access to the databanks in the Dark Council chambers. If successful, it will be a massive intel boost for the Republic war effort. The Master leads the ground attack on the Academy, rescuing Sith slaves along the way. They break into the main chambers and encounter Darth Sovaris. The Master wounds Sovaris, who is then killed in cold blood by Commander Jensen of the Jedi Order. The data is recovered from the Dark Council chambers. However, it is revealed that the Sith have attacked the Jedi Temple on Tython at the same time as the assault on Korriban. They race to a burning Tython, joining the frantic defense of the Jedi homeworld. The Master fights towards the Jedi Temple, which still barely stands. They kill a Sith Lord in its ruins, and a hollow from Darth Arcus transmits in. He cedes the temple back to the Jedi, claiming he is acting for the vindication of history. 2 battles have miraculously been won back to back, but the question of intel remains, particularly how the Sith were able to coordinate their surprise attack so well. Darok dismisses the Master, but Theron asks for their help in unraveling the larger mystery he sees. He does not trust Darok, and Theron and the Master form a partnership in secret from the Colonel. Sometime later, Theron summons the Master to the ocean world of Manaan. He reveals the intelligence data taken on Korriban was never turned over to the SIS. Theron has also learned that Darok has been visiting the same genetics lab on Manaan as Darth Arcus, the Dark Council member who attacked Tython. It turns out the 2 attacks were coordinated robberies, where Commander Jensen had stolen ancient Rakatan technology on Korriban. The Master conducts an investigation into the lab, and is aided in their fight against the security forces by the Wookiee Jakaro. he had been subjected to genetic experiments conducted by both Darok and Arcus. There, the Master discovers that Darok and Arcus are scheming to create their own army of soldiers with self-repairing Rakatan cybernetics. The two allies then appear, looking forward to unleashing their infinite army on the galaxy. They jet away back to the surface, bombing the facility and setting it to explode as they leave. The Master is aided surprisingly by a Sith as they escape to the surface. It is Lana Beniko, who distrusts Arcus and looks to take him down. She shockingly reveals to the Master and Theron that Arcus and Darok are Revan Knights, members of a secretive order of Revan. They have been a third party operating in the shadows of the war, and have spies in both the Republic and Empire. The Master and their new unlikely allies begin to search for the Revan Knights, tracking antique smugglers to find the trail of Darok and Darth Arcus. Theron is eventually able to pinpoint their hideout to be on Rakata Prime, where full production into the Infinite Army has begun. There, Darok and Arcus are using pieces of the actual Starforge, which had the ability to self-replicate, in order to enhance their soldiers. The Master races to Rakata Prime, where the Revanites are holed up in the Temple of the Ancients. The Master fights the local Rakata patrols and finds the temple guarded by the Revanites and their battle droids. They find the conscription center and successfully disrupt the production of the army. Arcus and Darok are found on the roof of the temple, and the Master and Jakaro attack. The Sith and treacherous Colonel are killed, but then a massive fleet appears above the planet. It is the Revanites, led by the infamous Revan himself. He has turned his back on the Republic again, declaring it weak. Revan has agents deep in the Empire and Republic, and orders for the bombardment of Rakata Prime. The Master and their team narrowly escape to Manaan, but now all of them except the Master have bounties on their heads, instituted by the Revanite spies. Theron decides to continue searching for Revan's command base under deep cover as the Master departs. Later, the Master has a vision of Revan on a remote planet with an island city. Somehow, they are able to deduce that the planet of Rishi holds the key to finding Revan. The seedy world is swarming with pirates and thugs, and the Master kills several pirates who attack shortly after landing. They seem to have been mistaken by the cannibalistic leader of the Red Hole Pirates, with rumors being perpetrated by a mysterious woman. As whispers swirl around the Master, they press on. Surprisingly, it is revealed that Theron and Lana are responsible for the Tall Tales, having created them as a ruse to get the Master to Rishi without tipping off the Revanites. Theron asks the Master to hunt down the Nova Blade pirates, who are working with the Revanites and may provide a lead onto Revan's whereabouts. Operating under their Red Hole cover, the Master embarks on a warpath against the Nova Blades. Their repute grows on Rishi, and the Nova Blades quickly take notice of the Master. They destroy a supply cache and liberate a slave camp, then prepare for a final raid. They attack the main Nova Blade base with local allies they've gathered in the Turf War, and search for the computers to gain intel on the Revanites. The Master slays Commodore Margok in combat, and sends what data they can to Theron. They return to their companions, and learn the Revanites are loosely linked with a figure called Torch, the head of a group of Mandalorians. The Mandalorians, however, have recently broken away from Revan and may present a new lead. A voice then appears to the Master. It is the spirit of their old master, Orgus Din. Their teacher wishes to remind the Master of their Jedi roots, as for several years they have known nothing but war and fighting. Din guides them on a series of simple missions helping the people of Rishi, helping the Master remember the peace that comes with their connection to the Force. The Master then flies to a remote island to find Torch, coming across her base and Mandalorian troops. They pass several trials of combat and meet Torch, whose real name is Shay Vizsla. Shay also tests the Master's fighting skills by attacking them, but is defeated. She agrees to share intel on the Revanites. The Mandalorians on Rishi had broken away from the cult after Shay grew apprehensive of their planned war. She reveals the Revanites have a massive fleet hidden somewhere on Rishi, and the Master returns to their base. It turns out that Theron has been abducted by the Revanites. Deciding to focus on fighting the hidden fleet, the Master deduces that Revan is trying to lure both the Republic and Empire to Rishi for a massive battle. The droid of Jakaro is able to find the Revanites' island base, and the Master sets off with their companions to hunt down the cult. The Master falls upon several enemy camps, who all follow Revan with a fierce reverence. They manage to convince the Republic Revanites to return to the Republic, and are forced to take out a defiant Imperial faction. A command center is found in a valley, along with Revan's fleet. The Master learns the Sith fleet by Darth Maul and Satele Shan's Republic Navy are both converging on Rishi. They attack the base and sabotage several warships. Revan himself is still nowhere to be found, but after much fighting, the Master manages to rescue Theron. A hollow of Revan appears, scolding his ancestor for interfering with his plans for peace. When the Sith and Republic fleets arrive, they will be massacred due to the Revanite traitors within each force. The Master and Theron flee, and decide to attack Revan's jammer, disrupting communication so the Republic and Sith can be warned. Soon enough, the fleets arrive and immediately open fire on each other. The Master liberates the communications tower from the Revanites after heavy fighting. They switch the ground defenses to open fire on the Revanite ships as the Battle of Rishi rages above. The Master manages to get into contact with Satele Shan and warns her of the traitors in her ranks working for Revan. The Republic stops firing on the Imperials, and Darth Maul also agrees for a meeting on neutral ground. The Revanite fleet is defeated, but their leader still remains at large. It is revealed Revan believes the immortal Sith Emperor is still alive, a sentiment shared by Darth Maul, for the spirit of the Emperor is believed to have endured. Revan, however, has thus come to believe that to truly destroy the Emperor, he must be restored to a physical body. Theron directs them to Revan's believed hideout on Yavin 4, and the Jedi and Sith agree to a temporary truce. The Revanites are holed up in an ancient temple as the darkness permeates across the planet. Satele and Mar also sense it. The Master and Mar rush to the facility on independent operations. The uneasy truce threatens to break, and they learn Revan plans to unleash a device of mass ritual destruction from inside the temple. The Master leads the attack on the temple, and then the light side spirit of Revan appears to them. It seems to have fractured from the physical body of Revan, the other half of him fall into darkness. A joint Republic and Imperial force defeats the Revanites and disables the weapon, and the Master then confronts Revan himself with their companions. The maddened Revan, driven by a hatred of the Emperor, refuses to back down. He draws his lightsaber and attacks the Master. After a massive battle, Revan is wounded and driven to the ground, but then the earth begins to rumble, and a brilliant beam of purple light erupts from the temple. The voice of the Sith Emperor rumbles, declaring he will retake the galaxy. Revan rises to his feet, and the light side spirit of Revan reappears. The body of dark side Revan falls and vanishes, with Revan becoming whole once more. His spirit disappears as well, and the Republic and Empire return to their war fronts. The Master is then promoted to the rank of Battle Master of the Jedi Order. Sometime later, the Master is hailed once more by Theron. He asks for aid in Imperial space over Ziost, believing the Emperor's presence to be somewhere on the planet. The Imperial outpost there turns out to be wrecked, and the Master discovers the garrison there is possessed by the spirit of the Emperor Vitiate. The Sith Emperor declares he cannot be stopped, and the Master defeats several possessed guards. The Sith Lana Beniko, now the Minister of Intelligence, arrives to help them fight, and reveals one of the possessed was actually a Jedi of the 6th line, a contingent working for the Republic SIS. The Emperor is going on a bloodthirsty killing spree on Ziost to fuel his growing power. Lana says the Sith Empire follows Vitiate no longer, and heads off to help the ongoing fighting. The Master helps lock down an armory, put in a quandary as every killed possessed helps the Emperor grow in strength. They reunite with Theron, and look to initiate a mass evacuation from Ziost. Possessed soldiers are shocked with electricity to temporarily sever the connection with the Emperor. However, the Supreme Chancellor patches in, frustrated with Theron's rogue operation using Jedi. A massive Republic fleet is dispatched to Ziost to conquer the planet to the dismay of the Master and Theron, who knows this just plays into the Emperor's hand. The Master battles a massive Sith monolith created by alchemy. To free the population from the Emperor's control, the Master draws the possessed pawns into the city of New Adasta. They use a massive electrostatic weapon on the corrupted Imperials and Republic troops, breaking the Emperor's control for a time. The Master battles one last possessed vessel of Vitiate and is able to liberate them as well. They take to orbit and hail the Supreme Chancellor, but the transmission cuts out. Vitiate's voice echoes around them once more, reasserting his return. The Emperor then conducts a massive ritual of unparalleled power. It is identical to the one that raised this homeworld of Nathema, and obliterates all life on Ziost, turning it into a cold, gray husk. Only a fraction of Republic troops are able to be evacuated. For commissioning a secret Black Ops team of Jedi, Theron is placed on indefinite leave.